The next person that we're going to deal with today is named James E. Quiball. He is another Egyptologist. He is another archaeologist who is responsible for the findings and the artifacts that we're going to be discussing today. All right? He was born November 1867. He died in June 1935, and he was a British Egyptologist and archaeologist. Okay? And he is known to be responsible for the finding and the excavation of King Narmer's palette, and also a piece of pottery that we're going to be discussing today. So that's why he's important. All right? So like I said, these are archaeologists, these are Egyptologists that even professors give credit to. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of people of African descent that have done the same research get credit, you know, universal credit, you know, credit all around the world. We have to run twice as hard in order to get credit about our own history. So like I said once before, we have to deal with the proof and the artifacts and the archaeological research from these dudes to find out what's going on about our history. I have a problem with that, because usually when somebody is another race, they do things and they say things and they adjust things that benefit their race. Okay? So what we have to do is we have to read between the lines concerning our history and use our own ancestral database to find out what we think about our own artifacts, our artifacts that look like us. What do we think about it? What is your interpretation? When you're looking at these artifacts today, I want you to ask yourself, what is your interpretation? What do you think about it? Forget about what James Quiball said for a hot second. Forget about what William Breasted said about it for a hot second. What do you think about it? What do you see as a person of African descent concerning these artifacts? Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some literature that I found concerning the Narmer palette. Alright? Just to describe it, and then I'm going to give my opinion on it. Alright? So as you see this palette, there's a lot going on this palette. Now check this out. In ancient times, this palette, or these type of palettes, were known to grind up cosmetics. But they became pieces of decoration. Alright, so I don't know if this particular palette was used to grind up cosmetics because it's larger than the usual palettes that they found in antiquity. But it's a lot going on this palette. Alright, and just to give me some assistance, I got some literature here. Now, no one really knows exactly how this palette is to be interpreted. But because of the events that we know about in history that has been validated, that has been proven, we can come to a basic conclusion about what was going on this palette. Okay? Africans and Egyptians were very artistic people. That's why it's hard to believe that they didn't write anything or draw anything concerning biblical events. Because if those events actually happened, like somebody splitting the sea like Moses and somebody walking on water, they would have documented it, because they documented everything. Alright? So I want to make that very clear. Real quick, I already described in the last meeting, and even in this meeting, that here is King Narmer. That's why it's called the Narmer palette. We already know that King Narmer is the first king of the dynastic period of Egypt. He's wearing the crown of Upper Egypt. On the back of this palette, he's wearing the crown of Lower Egypt, letting us know that he took ruleship and he took reign over Lower and Upper Egypt. The reason why he's known as the first dynastic king, because he is the first king to be known to unite Upper and Lower Egypt. On the front side, we can see the African features of each person that is on the palette. Europeans' hair does not grow like that. So if anybody tell you that these are Europeans on these artifacts, are lying. Okay? People of African descent, hair grows in an afro like that. People of African descent have round noses like that. People of African descent have these type of round ears. Am I right or wrong? Alright? Now, in this particular picture, he's defeating one of his enemies. They're not sure which enemies he defeated, but whatever enemy that he defeated, it represented him taking over Upper and Lower Egypt. As you can see, his enemies is at the bottom of his feet. As you can see, he is barefooted in this particular picture. Usually when somebody is barefoot like that, it represents them standing on holy ground. Now, where have you heard that from? The Bible, correct? Well, this is before the Bible. Maybe he was standing on holy ground, and that holy ground represents the goddess Hathor, which was a goddess who was known as the cow goddess. And as you can see, there are two pictures on the front and the back of the palette of a woman's face with cow horns. The only goddess during that time known to have these attributes is the goddess Hathor. So we know that she dates back to around 5,000, 4,000 BC. This is before Yahweh, this is before Allah, this is before any of that. This is the second goddess that you've seen. And the reason why I say that is because they gave honor to goddesses just as much as gods. In today's time, we give no honor to the woman as being any type of spiritual being. Why not? Who created that? We didn't, because during our ruleship, when we reigned, we gave honor to the woman as being a part of a spiritual deity. Alright? Now, here we see a falcon or a hawk. Now, we already described the falcon or hawk god, which is Horus or Haru. This is why he's known as the falcon god or the Horus god. Alright? Behind him must be one of his servants. Must be one of his armor bearers. Why do I say that? Because he's holding some sandals in his hand. Common sense says that these sandals belong to King Narmer. Alright? On the back, you can see two feline creatures. Some archaeologists say they are panthers. We don't know. But they represent the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. That's why their necks are intertwining like that. And the reason why we know that is because on the back he's wearing Lower Egypt crown, and on the front he's wearing Upper Egypt crown. And we know that this king is the one who ruled Upper and Lower Egypt. And after that, the kings and queens that ruled after him ruled Upper and Lower Egypt. And their ruleship also expanded to other parts of Africa and even other continents. Alright? At the bottom here, you can see a representation of a bull. One of the gods was a god named Apis. Okay? And as you can see, he's defeating something or conquering something at the very bottom. All these animals, all these depictions represent something. Alright? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a little bit so you can, named after the Horus Narmer. It appears on both its faces. The Narmer palette is a flat plate of schist of about 64 centimeters in height. Its size, weight, and decoration suggest that it was a ceremonial palette rather than an actual cosmetics palette for daily use. It was found in Erechinopolis, the ancient pre-dynastic capital located in the south of Egypt, by the British archaeologist J.E. Quibell, who we just talked about. During the excavation season of 1897 to 1898, in a deposit along with other artifacts stemming from the early beginnings of the recorded history of ancient Egypt, fragments of a ceremonial mace head belonging to Narmer and some other mace head fragments inscribed with the name of the Horus Scorpion, one of Narmer's predecessors that we talked about. The exact finding circumstances of the pallet have not been noted, and there appear to be some contradictions in publication of Quibell's work at Erechinopolis. The top of the pallet is decorated in a similar manner on both sides. The name of the king is inscribed in a so-called seret between two bovine heads. That's what they're talking about right here. The animal's head are drawn from the front, which is rather uncharacteristic of later Egyptian art. In most publications, these heads have been described as cow's heads, which is interpreted as an early reference to the cult of a cow goddess, perhaps even Hathor. That was her name. It is, however, equally possible that the animals are bulls and that they refer to the bull-like vigor of a king, a symbolism that occurs elsewhere on the pallet and will be continued to be used throughout the ancient Egyptian history as well. And unfortunately, we have to stop.